Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of So Tell Us Time. We're super excited to be here with you this week. As you know and noticed, we missed a couple of weeks. So there was some traveling going on, personal, family, fun travel, as well as business and work. And we just weren't able to get episodes done. But we do apologize. We had several people reach out and like, did I miss it? Or did I make a mistake? Did something happen? We are going to be better at notifying. We're actually working on our ways of communication for the podcast. So we're going to make sure that we're doing a better job notifying you if we're not going to have an episode in a week. So you can also always follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere. And we'll make sure that we put updates on our social media as well. So this week, though, we're so excited to be back with you. And fall break is over. And we're coming up on Halloween here soon, which I always say every single year. I say, as soon as October hits, the year is over. Can you believe it? Like, as soon as October hits, because then you've got Halloween, boom. Then you've got Thanksgiving. Like, I feel like when you have events every single month of the year or every single month in a row, it just moves so fast because it's like business just goes by. So it's like you've got Halloween, then you've got in November you've got Thanksgiving, and then in December you've got Christmas, and for me it's like I've got my birthday in December, I've also got my anniversary in November, so literally October hits and boom, the year's over before I know it. So today we're talking about focus. Trevor, get focused. Stop talking about the end of the year and all the fun things that are happening and the distractions. Focus. We're talking about focus. In fact, we're saying focus on the river and not on the stream, because in business, one of the biggest time and profit killers in your company and in your day-to-day business is distractions, right? Squirrel, getting distracted. So let's jump in. Enough of me. Troy, let's talk about focus.
Yeah. So today, again, we're really going to focus on, how can you avoid those distractions in your business? And I'm not talking about distractions like little weird things that come up and little tasks. So I'll go work on this instead of that or anything like that. What I'm talking about, these are things that look good in the business and you're like, oh, I should pay attention to this. I need to focus on this, but they might be distractions. And so that's why we gave you kind of the idea of focus on the river, not the stream, because a lot of times as business owners, man, we want to close every deal, right? And we want to get every single sale. We want to service every single customer. And it doesn't matter whether they're the right customer for us, whether they're the wrong customer for us. It doesn't matter whether it fits into the schedule correctly, whether we have the right staff for the job. Like, we want to get every single deal. And sometimes when we do this, we end up killing our time and killing our profits and killing our focus in the business. So what we're talking about today is really focusing on the river. Now, what the river is, basically, I want you to think of a river as your river of revenue, right? The money that's coming into your business. You need to identify like what creates the river of revenue you have. And then we're going to talk about those streams.
Let's call it the ROR, Troy. Do you guys know your ROR? Your river of revenue?
I like that. So first we're going to identify what are our rivers of revenue in our business. That's like a tongue twister, right? Your ROR. We may have to go back to that. Yep. So basically, to identify the rivers, you want to think about what brings in the most revenue in your business. So that might be what service brings in the most revenue, what product brings in the most revenue. So what really brings it in? So maybe you're a carpet cleaner and, actually cleaning carpets brings in the majority of the revenue, but then you have other revenue like upholstery cleaning or tile and grout cleaning. Those are maybe some of the streams in your business, but they're not the river, right? The river is your carpet cleaning that you do. So what brings in the most revenue? What brings in the most profit, right? Because you may have certain services that bring in a lot of profit and are not very much work to do. So that might be considered part of your river because it feeds a lot of profit into your company without, taking a lot of time. And I'll give you an example of that. So we had one of our clients who was an electrician and we were doing some marketing for him. And we saw that he was getting jobs for changing out those GFIC, or I think it's GFIC plugs, like in your kitchen and in your bathrooms, and or is it might be GCFI? I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm not an electrician.
GCFI, I don't know, something like that.
Anyways, so it's the plugs that basically, if water hits it, it's gonna shut itself off, right, and protect you. And he was getting several of these, and we're like, oh man, I see you're getting a lot of this. Do we need to maybe change some of the marketing so that you're not getting those? And he's like, no. I love those. He's like, it takes my guys about 10 minutes to swap those out, and I charge like $200 a plug. And he's like, so great profit margins. And we're like, okay. So he knew, even though that was not a big ticket item, big profit margin, right? And it got him in the door so that he could get more stuff done while he's in the house. So what brings in the most profit? What takes the least amount of time, but has a great profit? So that those plugs is a great example of that. 10-minute job, $200, right? And then what service or product has the largest potential customer base? And this is really important too, because a lot of times we may look at one of our services and say, oh, well, this is a really great service that I can charge a lot of money for, but there may not be very many people out there that need that service. So even though you can charge a lot of money for it, because it has a smaller potential customer base, it may not actually produce a lot of revenue in that river, right? So you want to make sure that you're, focusing on the services and the products and the things that has a large customer base, because that's going to be what's going to build your river, right, of revenue coming in. So I hope that makes sense. Now, what are the streams then, right? So we know streams are much smaller than a river. They're much slower, right? And they don't produce as much. So we all have little streams in our business, and those might be, we're going to talk about some of the additional streams out there. But what I want you to think about is when we're thinking about those streams, like how much time, energy, and effort should we be putting into those streams versus putting into the river, right? So imagine, again, if your business is a boat and you're trying to get as far as you possibly can, do you want to be in a river with fast moving water, or do you want to be in a little stream, right, with slow moving water? So we're going to talk about some potential streams out there, and then you're going to make a decision, how important are those streams in my business? Should I focus on those streams? So some of examples of those streams are additional services, right? And in other podcasts, we've talked about how important it is to add additional services to your business so that you can capture as much revenue as you possibly can. So it's important to have additional services. But when you're adding additional services, you want to make sure that you look at them in a very specific way, right? So one of the things you want to look at is, how much time does this service take compared to how much money do I make, right? Because it might be a very specialized service, like maybe tile and grout cleaning. That may take actually a lot more time cleaning the tile and grout than it does to clean the carpets, right? So how much time is it taking versus what you would normally do? And then you want to compare revenues to that as well. What am I going to make cleaning the carpet in the house versus what am I going to make cleaning the tile and grout in the house? And of course, if you can compound those, add those together, then you're making more revenue, right? But you want to make sure that you're focusing on where your river of revenue is first. Another thing you want to look at is, what is my cost to fulfill? Because a lot of times some of these additional services, they might have a higher cost to fulfill that actual service than your main service. So you want to look at that. If there's a real high cost to fulfill, then maybe that's not the right service to add on. And then maybe another thing is you don't have processes in place, right? Maybe your team is very well trained on your main service and they do a great job and they're very efficient and fast providing that service. But when it comes to some of your additional services, they're much slower, much more ineffective, right? They're not efficient. And so those are actually costing you more in work labor because of the inefficiency, right, and the training than what your normal services are. So when you're looking at your additional services, you want to take a look at those three things and make sure that you understand them before you add those additional services in, or before you promote those additional services, right? Because again, we only have so much money to market and to advertise our business. So where do we want to spend our marketing dollars, right? We want to spend it where we're going to get the best return on that. So that might be additional services. It might not, depending on your answer to those three questions. Another place where we see a lot of people lose time and lose profits in streams is high ticket clients, right? We all want to be able to charge more money for our services. We all want bigger ticket or higher ticket clients, but we need to understand that higher ticket normally means higher demanding clients, right? Those clients are going to take more of our time. They're going to expect a certain level of quality that you're providing to them. And, it's going to take a lot more of your training with your staff and a lot more of their time. So it's going to cost you more. So you want to make sure that if you are getting and focusing on those higher ticket clients, that the profit margin is still there, right? That even though you're spending more time there, you're going to make more profit, not even just the same profit. Because if you could do multiple jobs and make the same amount of profit, in a smaller amount of time than doing one high ticket job with a client and make the same amount of profit in a same amount of time, right? One is better than the other. And I'll give you an example. We were working with one of our clients, and he did pools and landscaping, like backyards, design backyards. And he was like, look, I only want, jobs that are $100,000 to $150,000. And we're like, okay, well, that's a lot harder to market for because there's a lot less jobs out there, a lot less people looking to spend $100,000 to $150,000 in their backyard than people that are willing to spend $50,000. And, Trevor talked to him about that. And he's like, well, he's like, I'm getting a lot of people that want, $10,000 to $50,000 jobs, but that's not what I want. Right. And what did you say to him, Trevor?
I was like, well, you're crazy, because I'm like, you could do 5 or 10 of these jobs in the same time frame that you could do $100,000 job or $150,000 job, but you're dealing with different projects and getting them done and keeping your guys busy and keeping revenue coming in, instead of, just dismissing all of these and then working with just like one. I can tell you, a customer at $150,000 is going to be very particular, and that job is going to take, 6 months or whatever it is. Whereas you could be knocking out these smaller jobs at 10 grand and still make the same amount of money. And like the customers are super happy, and you're just knocking them out, right? Simpler even. You can even have 2 crews is what I told him. Have 2 different types of crews.
Yes. Exactly. So you definitely want to look at that when it comes to higher ticket clients and higher ticket jobs. What is your profit margin? What is the time it takes? And how does that compare to your regular clients? Another area or another stream that we see a lot of people focusing on is partnerships. And again, if you've listened to our past podcasts, we've talked about how important partners are and partnerships are. And in fact, we've even talked about like even in our own business. And so tell us, right? A third of our clients, our new clients every single month, come from partners, relationships that we've built that are bringing in clients to us. So that's a very important part of our business. But it's also very important to understand that partnerships take a lot of investment of your time and potentially revenue, money up front, with very little payoff in the beginning. So it's important to understand like that when you're looking at those partnerships, how much time am I going to spend on this partnership right now? And what's the potential payoff of this partnership versus my regular river of revenue? Now, that doesn't mean that you don't stop getting partnerships, but it means that you're very particular about the partnerships that you go after, right? You've analyzed that partnership and you've said, you know what, this one has the best potential to generate the most revenue for me, right? I'm not going to chase every partnership. I'm only going to chase the best partnerships because I'm not going to lose focus, time, and money chasing ones that are probably not going to come to fruition, right?
Yep.
So that's really important when it comes to your partnerships. And another one that we see all the time is large deals or group deals. And this one is a big one. There is a definite high upfront time cost when you're dealing with a large deal or a group deal. And you're also usually dealing with a high discount to land that deal. So I'll give you a perfect example of this. So a large deal or a group deal might be a franchise that you're trying to land, right? And you're saying, oh man, if I could just, and you know, we've said this several times throughout 25 years of business, man, we've got this, you know, we're working on this deal right now. This franchise has 400 locations across the United States. Like, man, we're going to work on this, grow, you know, do what we can to close this deal. Right. And Trevor, what would you say? Are those easy to close? Do those happen all the time?
Yeah, they're like, we could at any given time. It's funny, at any given time over the last 25 years, there are probably between 4 to 10 deals on the table that if all of them closed, like we'd be done. We'd be done. Like we'd just be like, you know, amazing. This would be like life changing, game changing, business changing, you know. And it's funny because with how much work, energy, and efforts put into those, we then also have our regular rivers or streams of revenue, right? Our regular streams of revenue within that are, you know, funneling all into this big river that makes up all of our revenue. But and those are continuing to produce. The big deals, they take a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. In fact, they're referred to as whale hunting, and you can hire people to be whale hunters. And we've had so many people come to us and be like, I want to be a whale hunter for you, you know, and the amount of deals that actually close, like honestly, our regular avenue of sales for those different, you know, avenues of revenue is what we normally refer to them as. They produce way more for us. They always end up producing way more. And that's just saying that, you know, the big deals do land, but they take forever and they don't all land. And there's too much red tape. And often these are companies where, you know, corporations where the CEO is changing. By the time the deal's almost done, or the CEO changes. And it's like you're starting from ground zero, or then a new CFO comes in, or a new COO, or whatever. And it's like, you've got to, oh, now we need to show them, and now we need to show them. And now, you know, and it's like, it is such a pain. It's amazing when it pays off. It really is awesome. But again, if that's what our focus was, we would actually go out of business because they just take too long. The revenue, the cash flow wouldn't be there.
Yep, absolutely. So again, we're not saying that you just like dam off these streams and you never look at them ever again.
Right.
But you just need to look at them and you need to determine how much time, energy, and effort am I going to put into these streams versus just, you know, versus focusing on where the majority of my revenue is coming in through.
Yeah.
So, and those large, like Trevor said, those large deals, those group deals, when they come in, they are great.
They're awesome.
But the amount of time, energy, and effort that go into those is crazy compared to, you know, and I'll give you an example. Like when we landed a franchise that had a ton of customers, you know, and we put on a ton of clients all in a single month, which was great. And every single one of the franchisees use our service. But in the time it took us to finish that, close that deal, we did 6 times the number of new customers.
Yes.
During that same period of time through our other normal marketing channels.
Yeah, like literally to close a deal of 100 clients, right, in a franchise, we will have closed 500 other clients in the time that it takes to close that one deal of 100, you know, or more. I mean, the numbers could even be bigger than that. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yes. So the goal here is, again, what we're looking at is figure out where the biggest revenue is, what feeds you the most, feeds your river the most, and then take a look at those other streams that you're spending time on and determine which ones have value that you want to continue to work on and which ones maybe don't, and get those ones out and off your plate, and focus on where the majority of the revenue is coming from. Anything you want to add, Trevor, before we get to the homework?
I would just say that, on this, be careful, right? Because, and the only one caution I give is that people will say, oh, this, stream is not producing as much as these other 3 streams, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Well, that's just crazy. Yeah. Because we say to people all the time, we're like, well, is that profitable? Is that stream profitable? Or normally avenue of revenue, is that stream of revenue profitable? Yes, it is. Okay, great. And it produces 5%. Do you want 5% less business? Well, no. Oh, okay. Then why would you get rid of it? So like, be careful with it. I think what we're really focusing on here and what Troy's talking about is like these streams that are not profitable, right? Yes. That are taking up too much time, so that because they might still be bringing money in, but they take up so much energy and effort and time, that's not actually profitable, right? You got to also factor your time into all of this, because like you said in the beginning, I want to close every deal. Well, guess what? Not every deal is worth closing, even though it brings in revenue. And so that's the one thing is just, when we're looking at this, you're looking at it from a perspective of like, not, oh, how do I just cut things out? No, I cut things out that are wasting my time. I cut out streams. I dam off streams that are, bringing in the mucky water, right? We're bringing in stuff we don't want in our river. And that's really what we're talking about here. So, as far as homework goes, this week, identify the streams that are sucking up all your time and your profits. That's what I'm saying is you might actually be wasting money on some of these streams, trying to generate revenue, but they just aren't doing it. So identify those ones and then cut them out so that you can focus on the whole picture, the river, the majority of the revenue, right? That actually is bringing in revenue. Especially, again, put your time in there. That's a big thing that entrepreneurs miss all the time. They don't put their like value into it, Yeah. And Troy and I have had this conversation several times. I'm like, Troy, we can pay somebody $15 an hour to do this, or you can continue to spend your time on it at $200 an hour. What would you like to do? And he's like, no, totally. Yeah. Like, and same thing with me. Like, we get so, squirrel on certain situations or certain, systems or certain thises or that's that we end up spending our time. And it's like, when you add our time into it, we're like, oh, wow. No, it actually cost us this much, because if you were paying me for that time, it would be really expensive. So just add that in there, guys. Think about that as well. And we are so grateful for you guys. We're glad to be back, and we will catch you guys on the next episode of So Tell Us Time.